Hello friends, welcome to today's Around the World Yoga Flow. We will be moving the body in all sorts of directions to help us channel energy and foster focus as we mindfully move throughout the course of this day. When you're ready, afford yourself a moment to find a comfortable seated position. You might like to join me in diamond pose. Sits bones on top of the heels, inner thighs touching, maybe placing your palms in your lap. On your next inhale, we'll slowly extend our arms overhead, finding length, joining the palms together, and exhale, floating your hands down by your side, interlacing your fingers behind your back, finding a bind. Stretch your arms back as you broaden across the heart space, letting go of any tension. Keeping the bind, we'll guide our hands around to our left side body, lowering our right ear towards our right shoulder, and finding some circular motions with the neck. Warming up the cervical region of the spine, engaging the core, whilst mindfully lowering the shoulders away from the ears. We'll lower our hands behind the back, and take the movement on the other side, keeping the bind, joining the palms together at the right side of the waist, finding some circular fluidity with the head and neck. Finding center, keeping the bind, we'll come up into a kneeling position, knees are hip-width distance apart. Gaze up. We'll sink our hips back as we come into child's pose with the bind, lowering the forehead onto the mat, working on extending those arms, feeling a lovely stretch along the front of the body, the front of the shoulders, softening the jaw, and release back up to a seated position, broadening across the heart space. Release the bind, inhale, extend the arms overhead, lower the hands to heart center. And we'll come into all fours kneeling position, Bamanasana tabletop. Fingertips facing the sides of the mat, wrists facing together. Begin to create some circular motions, warming up the hips, the shoulders, the wrists, the forearms. Mindfully becoming aware of the movements. Flipping the grip again, fingertips facing towards the knees, wrists facing forwards, shift the hips forwards and back as we stretch out the wrists, and flipping the grip once more so that the fingertips face towards the knees, palms are facing skywards. You might like to make fists and perform the same movement for a deeper stretch along the front of the forearms. Gently release, we'll come into a standard tabletop, taking a round of cat and cow. Inhale, scoop the chest forward, slight bend in the thoracic region of the spine. Exhale, push into the palms, chin to chest. A few more rounds, finding your rhythm. Pairing movement with breath. We'll take one more round of cat and cow. From here, grounding down in tabletop, we'll extend our left leg back. Inhale, float the left leg up to hip height, foot is flexed, toes and knees are pointed towards the surface beneath you. We'll keep the leg up and begin to take some small pulses, really working on keeping that whole leg activated, feeling yourself growing longer through the heel of that foot. Evenly distributing the weight across your tripod foundation. If you notice that left hip externally rotating, simply guide it down towards the mat. Really drawing that core in, navel is activated towards the spine. Find length along the back of the neck. Last 3, 2, 1. Keep that leg lifted, rotated around to the left, and we'll begin to lift and lower that leg. The left leg is straight, the foot is flexed, ever so slightly tapping that big toe down and lifting the leg right back up. We're using the abductors here, strengthening the gluteus medius, the stabilizing muscles. And again, if you notice yourself shifting to the right, simply press a little bit more weight into that right palm to guide you to the midline. We'll stay up and pulse and hold, see if you can lift that leg a little higher. Gently release. We'll sink the hips back, keeping that leg extended, coming into a half straddle, half child's pose. Melting the forehead on the mat. One breath here. Keeping the legs as they are, we'll walk our fingertips around to that left leg, finding a lovely stretch, sinking those hips back, listening to your body, taking any adjustments that you need for today. One more mindful breath in this posture. We'll gently walk our way to center and we'll place our right palm underneath our right shoulder, coming up into a supported side plank with a bit of a back bend. Exhale, come into that straddle stretch. Inhale, lift into supported side plank, flowing like this. You might like to close the eyes here and make it more of an intuitive motion. Lean into what feels good. And we'll work our way back to center, transitioning onto all fours, coming into a tabletop position, tucking the left knee. We'll pivot that left leg on top of the right as we come into a supported side plank. Left arm is extended skywards, shoulders are stacked, hips are stacked. The right wrist is underneath the right shoulder, and we are going to flex that left foot, lift and lower. You might like to place your hand on your hip for more of a challenge. We want to ensure that that kneecap is facing forwards, and again we're working the muscles of the outer hips here, the outer legs, drawing that navel towards the spine. We're not arching the back. Seeing if you can soften the muscles of the face. Keep the leg up and pulse, small movements. The leg is up at hip height. Can you lift it a little higher? Breathe into any tension. A few more pulses. Being mindful of your foundation, sending nourishing energy to that left leg. Lift it up a little higher. A few more pulses, and we'll keep it up and hold. Flex that foot and gently lower, coming into a tabletop position. And we'll set up for the other side, taking one round of cat and cow to neutralize the spine if you like. And ground yourself in a tabletop position. From here, we will extend our right leg back, float the leg up at hip height, foot is flexed, keeping the glutes, the hamstrings engaged, squaring the hips, finding length along the back of the neck, drawing that navel towards the spine, and pulse that leg. Small movements, lifting it up, and really working on lifting that whole leg up. Everything is working together. Slow, intentional breaths. Mindful movements. Can you lift that leg a little higher? Can you engage the muscles a little more? And externally rotate that leg. We'll come into these lateral leg lifts, flexing the foot and tapping that big toe down and lifting it right back up, raising the leg to hip height. Doing your best to keep the hips squared, keep that weight centralized through the midline. Stay up and pulse. How high can you lift that leg? You have got this. A few more. Breathe. Last few. Last 3, 2, 1. Keep that leg up and hold. One gradual breath, and gently release the leg down. Keeping the leg extended, we'll sink our hips back into a half straddle child's pose, allowing the chest and the heart to melt towards Mother Earth, tuning into the breath, letting go of any tension, any thought processes that are detracting you from this moment. When you're ready, guiding your fingertips around to that right leg, maybe placing your palms on the outer foot, the ankle, allowing yourself to sink back into those hips, finding a stretch. 2 more breaths in this posture. And mindfully guiding your hands to center. From here, we'll place our left palm underneath the left shoulder, extend the right arm overhead as we find a supported gate side plank variation. Exhale, lower. Inhale, side plank, heart opener. Exhale, lower down over that right leg. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward fold. Once more, really working on lifting those hips up, pushing the pelvis forward. Exhale, fold. Flowing with the breath. Articulating each movement. Feeling the nourishment flowing throughout the body. If any postures feel particularly interesting, remember that you can always hang out there for a little longer. When you're ready, join us in this straddle child's pose and work your way up to a tabletop position, joining the right knee underneath the right hip, and we'll transition into our supported side plank. Pivoting to the right, the left wrist is underneath the left shoulder, right fingertips are drawing skywards, shoulders are stacked, hips are stacked. Right foot is flexed, and we'll begin those single leg lift and lowers. Maybe placing the right palm on your hip for a little bit of a challenge. Tapping that toe down and lifting the leg right back up. Keeping that knee facing towards the right. Core is engaged. Letting go of any tension. Stay up and pulse. Small movements. Softening the face, maybe inviting a smile to the lips. A few more breaths in this posture. Lifting that leg as high as you can, keeping everything switched on. A few more breaths. We have got this. Stay up and hold, static lift. One breath and gently release, coming into a tabletop position. Taking a moment in child's pose, and from here we're going to transition into some upward facing dog flows. So grounding down through the palms, shift the weight forward as you come up into upward facing dog, raising the hips, the legs. Exhale, push back into child's pose. And again, rolling like a wave. Grounding down through the tops of the feet, broadening across the heart space. Exhale, child's pose. And again. If this feels like too much, you're more than welcome to rest in Cobra, Bhujangasana, keeping the knees in contact with the surface beneath you. On your next exhale, we'll push up into downward facing dog. Hips are drawing towards the sky, navel is drawn towards the spine. From here, we'll flex the knees, draw the chest to the thighs, and re-extend the legs a few times, warming up the hamstrings, the hip flexors, the quads. And when you're ready, we'll take one breath in downward facing dog, finding a static posture. And from here, floating the heels up off the mat, we'll roll forward like a wave, coming into upward facing dog. Exhale, push back into downward facing dog, flowing like this. Rolling one vertebra at a time, keeping that core engaged. Mindful activation of the arms. Warming up the whole body. Adapting this in any way that suits you. And again, maybe finding cobra pose if upward facing dog is not working for you today. Listen to your energy levels. And we'll meet in downward facing dog. One breath here. Begin to slowly walk your feet to the top of the mat. We'll come into a forward fold. Bending the knees, maybe coming into ragdoll. Softening the back of the neck. One breath here. And we'll gently lower the palms down onto the mat. Coming into a halfway lift. Inhale, extend the legs, maybe placing the palms on the shins. Exhale, forward fold. And again, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And grounding down through the heels, we'll roll up one vertebra at a time, coming into Tadasana. Extending our arms out wide like a wingspan. We'll lower down into chair pose. This is our last bit of work. Keep everything engaged. Gaze up, broaden across the heart space. Extend those fingertips. Sink the hips back. One breath here. Gently release, coming into a forward fold. Bend the knees, inhale, halfway lift, extend the legs. Exhale, fold twice more, flowing at your own rhythm. Really mobilizing the whole body here. Sending nourishing life force throughout each muscle, each region of the body. Coming up into Tadasana, inhale, extend the arms overhead. Exhale, lower them down by your sides. Taking a moment to ground yourself in Tadasana. We'll take one final chair pose. Inhale, extend the arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Come up into chair pose. Sink the hips back. Engage that core. Unclench the jaw. You have got this. Tuning into that mind-body connection. Maybe raising the heels off the mat. Rising high on the balls of the toes. If you wobble around, that is okay. Join the hands together at heart center and lower down, staying high on the balls of the feet. Coming into a variation of a squat and gently guiding the knees down to the floor, untucking the toes, resting the sits bones on the heels. Inhale, extend the arms overhead. Exhale, lower the palms to the third eye center, the Ajna chakra. Recognizing the light in yourself and in each of us. We'll take 3 cleansing breaths to close practice. Inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling through the mouth. Thank you all so much for today. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.